And hands straight up in the cox's seat here. Mayetta Jones in the Sydney crew and Felicity Carroll in the Vesta crew. Neither happy with their line, and as we start this race, I'm going to say goodbye to Adrian Casti, who's been wonderful for one race, but I'm going to welcome Tom Morgan to join us here in watching this Wargrave Challenge Cup event. Hi, Tom.
Thanks, Camilla. Yeah, very much looking forward to this Friday evening at Henley. No better place to be.
Go! We're here, the Wargrave Challenge Cup between Vesta Rowing Club A on the Buckinghamshire station on the right-hand side of your screen and Sydney Rowing Club Australia on the left-hand side of your picture. And well, Sydney here have come with purpose. That is a real kind of strong finish they've got here in the first 10 strokes, Tom.
Yeah, such a distinctive style. I was having a conversation with their head coach, Don Check, about an hour ago, and he said these guys come here to win. They come here, like you say, Camilla, with complete purpose. They train in some ways specifically for this event, and these guys want nothing more than to appear on the Sunday of the Wargrave Challenge Cup.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've got a few returners here in this Sydney Rowing Club crew from their junior days of racing. 3 of this crew raced in the Diamond Jubilee Challenge Cup just a few years ago, all for different clubs, and Neve Graham in the 5 seats, returning, having raced for Sydney as a junior in that event. But we're looking now at Vesta Rowing Club A, who here on the British circuit, Tom, they've had a great season so far. They had a wonderful Henley Women's Regatta, but they're currently trailing here behind Sydney, but looking to stick their bow ball here to the Sydney crew and not let them get away.
No, that's exactly it. I think a lot of crews we've seen jump out, particularly from abroad, jump out very, very fast at the start, try and steal the march on their opponents. But actually the Brits maybe have that ability just to retain their pace through the middle of the race and ensure that they are still in the fight. And like you say, Camilla, if that bow ball of the Vesta crew stays in touch with the stern of the Sydney crew, this race one-on-one is not over.
Well, you can see here from the data that we're receiving from these boats, the Sydney Rowing Club crew on the left-hand side of your screen still moving that bit faster than Vesta Rowing Club, around about the same strokes per minute. They're both settling around 37, 38 strokes a minute, but Sydney just with a little bit more kind of distance per stroke, Tom.
Yeah, it's certainly punchy rhythms. Just watching them, they're going to have to come down in some sort of cruising speed eventually, but you're right, at the moment, just watching those Sydney blades, there is a punchier aspect to the way that they're rowing. It's a little bit more aggressive at both ends of the stroke, I would say. I think you're totally right, Camilla, in picking up on that very distinctive finish style. You can really see the girls leaning back and allowing every single piece of the stroke just to flow out at the end.
And despite their stroke ratings being very similar, and we saw that from this shot here, actually they're getting on to the next stroke, Sydney, much faster around the finish, around the turn, which is where these athletes take the blades out of the water and return up to the front of the boat to take the next stroke. Sydney have that little bit quicker spin round that finish end than Vesta do here, and you can really tell the difference there.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just watching Vesta on the left-hand side of your screen, some interesting steering going on. They sort of veered into the middle of the course there, and for those who aren't aware, every single touch of the rudder from Cox, Felicity Carroll, will result in a little bit of a degrade in their speed. It means that they're just moving about more than they need to, so she'll need to make sure she stays on the line that she thinks is the truest and the surest to get her crew down the course. But Vesta, you can see the grit and determination there on the face of stroke Rebecca Kelly, 31 years and 7 months of age. She is not going to want to let Sydney get away, and I think the critical thing here, and we talk about it a lot at Henley, is that these crews need to stay in touch with each other. The one-on-one racing, if you break the elastic band, that sort of intangible barometer of where one person is compared to another, it's so much more difficult to come back on terms. So Vesta need to stay in the race here.
And they really are staying in the race, Tom. I cannot fault what they've done to date, despite Sydney having that electric start, blasting out the blocks with real passion. Actually, Vesta have been a little bit more technical, I'd say, through this kind of second third of the race, and it's kept them in the mix. And we're going to get the shots very soon to kind of determine how much distance they've got to make up. But really, they're sticking really well to their rhythm, to their race plan, and they're going to come into view soon of Remenham Club, of which Vesta Rowing Club here on the left-hand side of your picture. It's a group of clubs from the sort of south southern area of England that all grouped together, and they're about to come into touch with Sydney Rowing Club moving through Remenham, which they're going to get a huge cheer and a huge round of applause as they move back through, Tom.
Yeah, you can hear it in the background. Fantastically timed move there from Vesta. The rate just ticked up ever so slightly, and just as this camera pans to level with us, level so we can see, they are one-on-one, mano-a-mano here as they move past Upper Thames.
Oh, this is absolutely sensational stuff here from Vesta Rowing Club A, the finalists from the Aspirational Club 8s back at Henley Women's Regatta just a couple of weeks ago, and this would have been the finish line 3 weeks ago. It's only 1,500 metres, but now they've got an extra 600 metres to row, and look at those boat speed. Vesta have maintained where they were off the start, and Sydney, they're just coming down, they're dying. They were at 17 kilometres an hour earlier, and they've dropped right back. And, you know, this race is, as we've already said, 2,112 metres long, and every metre counts, and it's the bow ball that crosses the finish line first that matters, not to the end of the island, and Vesta have kept their cool here.
Well, Vesta have absolutely played a blinder. I know we've still got over 500 metres left to row of this Henley course, but at the moment, this looks like a perfectly timed contest. They just waited in almost like a trap. They sprung the trap in the middle of the race. We've seen so many domestic crews do that already. They know this course just that little bit better, and Vesta now continuing to just move away, but can they maintain the boat speed and ensure that any counter march from Sydney is checked?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tom. They've got to be careful of the counter march, because now the tables have turned, the shoe's on the other foot, and Sydney's job right now is to do exactly the same as what Vesta did in the first half, which is to keep that overlap, to keep them in the game for the sprint, because it's all to play for here as we come into the regatta enclosure. They've only got a couple of minutes left to row. If that, you can see the mile and 1/8 signal, that iconic background. They'll be aiming for that church, and Vesta Rowing Club here, coached by Lee Curtis Green. Well, she's going to be smiling right now as Vesta hold off Sydney into the enclosures.
Yeah, stroke Caitlin McManus Barrett, the Sydney crew, 19 years of age. She needs to take her crew up through the gears now. It's now or never for Sydney. You can see Henley Church looming in the background. That means we've got about 200 metres, probably 30 to 40 strokes left to row. Sydney need to go now. The question remains, Camilla, what have they got left in the tank?
Well, have they spent all of their cash in the first half of this course? And time will tell now, as they've only got a few strokes left. You can see the rating going up and up in the Sydney crew. The blades are having to square that little bit quicker, but Vesta just keep moving, and I think Vesta Rowing Club here have timed it to perfection, and it's going to be, well, over half a length coming through the stewards enclosure, past the progress boards, and this is an example of how to keep cool under pressure despite being down in the first half of this race. Vesta Rowing Club will see themselves in this Wargrave Challenge Cup, rowing through Sydney Rowing Club, who've come halfway across the world to challenge, and what an excellent race there for the crew from the Tideway.
Well, it was almost like they'd won the event themselves, Camilla. They were so happy crossing that line. That is how you row a race at Henley. You go out at the start, you're mature, you're controlled, and then you make your move, you stamp on the throat in the middle of the race. Perfectly timed from Vesta.
So there is the confirmation that the Vesta Rowing Club will go through to the weekend in the Wargrave Challenge Cup.